The Romanian Principalities, lands of castles, forests, and legends of blood. You've heard of Vlad the Impaler, yes? The man who made steaks famous. But let me tell you, what happened in the bedchambers of these boyars and princes makes impalement look almost polite. Behind the fortress walls, under the candlelight of monasteries, the filth of desire ran deeper than the Danube. And if you think you're ready, buckle up, because this is where sin put on a crown. Before we wade into this cesspool, if you believe in Jesus, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you don't want to be alone when walking through these chambers of filth. Let's begin in the courts of Wallachia. Gold-threaded carpets, icons of saints staring down from every corner, incense burning from silver bowls. A holy setting, right? Wrong. These boyars, the proud nobles of the realm, used those sacred halls for games that would shame the devil. Servants whispered of feasts where the wine flowed, and so did the women. Not courted, not wooed, simply taken. The so-called banquet test became infamous. At the end of grand feasts, a boyar would signal for his guards to bring in servant girls, sometimes even nuns. The chosen women were forced to dance naked on the very tables where holy bread had been served earlier. Drunk nobles clapped, threw coins, and then fought over who got first pick. The church icons remained, their painted eyes wide, staring at the sins committed beneath them. And if you thought the church was outraged, think again. Many priests were part of the games. Some even offered the blessing before the orgies began. One chronicler swore that a priest, after kissing the cross, would then kiss the thighs of the women brought in, as if absolution came through flesh instead of prayer. Holy water by day, unholy wine by night. Sin dressed itself in robes and crowns. But the filth wasn't limited to the nobles. The voivodes themselves, the rulers of Wallachia and Moldavia, wrote their names in blood and shame. Vlad's infamous cruelty wasn't only about impalement. Whispers spoke of him staging tests of loyalty with women. He would invite courtiers' wives and daughters, pour wine, and then order them to strip. If they refused, they were beaten. If they obeyed, they were passed around. And after? Sometimes staked, sometimes discarded in the forest like broken dolls. Loyalty, you see, was measured by how much flesh you could give. Meanwhile, in Moldavia, the courts of Stephen the Great carried another rumor, the chastity chamber, a locked room where captured maidens were taken. Guards forced them to kneel in prayer while Stephen decided their fate. Some were sent back, blessed. Others never returned. Chroniclers say the screams echoed through the stone walls long after the doors shut, and still they called him the Great. Let's not forget the boyar households. Behind the fortress walls, wives were dressed in silks imported from Venice. But silk wasn't just for beauty, it was for bondage. Venetian ropes, delicate and strong, tied wrists to bedposts. Masks from Italian carnivals were shipped in so wives could pretend to be someone else when the games began. And when the nobles tired of their wives, they ordered peasant girls in, scrubbed them with wine to cleanse them, then used them in the same beds. In the villages, soldiers carried their own traditions. During campaigns, Wallachian and Moldavian troops dragged women along as marching wives, not wives by choice, but by force. Some soldiers traded them like horses. A girl could be swapped for a blade or for a jug of wine. In the dark of the camps, women's cries mixed with the crackle of firewood. Commanders turned their heads. Sometimes they joined. War brought no honor, only flesh. And then there were the monasteries. You'd think the monks, isolated in their stone sanctuaries, lived pure lives of prayer. Not quite. Reports spread of secret tunnels beneath monasteries where women were smuggled in, pilgrims' wives, shepherds' daughters. Once inside, they were stripped, shaved, and made to serve. Some monks even held competitions who could seduce the youngest, who could break a vow with the most blasphemous act. The irony? By day, those same monks preached purity from the pulpit. By night, they drank honey wine and defiled the very oaths they had sworn before God. One tale even tells of a monk carving verses of the Bible onto a woman's skin with a knife, licking the blood as he recited the words. Scripture and sin carved together. Even the Bible became foreplay. Let's not forget the queens and princesses. In the courts of Bucharest and Iași, whispers circled of royal women who indulged in their own desires. One story spoke of a voivode's wife who bathed in milk mixed with rose petals, joined not by her husband, but young stable boys. Another princess was said to disguise herself as a peasant and slip into taverns at night, seeking men who didn't know her rank. And when they did discover her identity, too late. Gold bought silence. Even more scandalous were the tales of noble women who dabbled in witchcraft. They were said to mix potions of herbs and blood, smear themselves with oils, and summon lovers in candlelit rituals. Some swore that they coupled with demons in the form of dark shadows, their screams echoing through the night as servants crossed themselves outside the doors. Royalty by day, witches by night. And in the streets, the people copied their rulers. Festivals turned into carnivals of flesh. During Easter and midsummer, villagers stripped masks from their faces and morals from their bodies. Men chased women through the fields, caught them, and had their way while others laughed and sang. The church bells rang in the background, but no one listened. Some festivals ended with dozens of girls carried away, never to be seen again. In Moldavian markets, prostitutes openly offered their services under the guise of fortune-telling. A girl would read your palm, then lead you behind a tent. Some even pretended to be nuns, offering sacred blessings for coins. And the people, hungry for pleasure and power, lined up without shame. If the castles were drenched in sin, the countryside wasn't any cleaner. The boyars treated their estates like private playgrounds. In Wallachia, a tradition called prime noctis was whispered about, the Lord's first night. Whenever a peasant married, the Lord could claim the bride before her husband. Whether legend or fact, too many folk tales repeat the same horror. Brides dragged from their wedding beds, sobbing as the Lord tested them, while the grooms were beaten or tied. What should have been a union of love turned into a public humiliation. Marriage began with rape, not vows. And the cruelty didn't stop there. In Moldavia, boyars demanded tribute of daughters. Each year, peasant families were forced to send their most beautiful girl to the manor as part of their tax. These girls became servants by name, but toys in truth. Their families received nothing but fear. Some girls returned broken. Others never came back. Meanwhile, the taverns of Iași and Bucharest became dens of sin. Behind the music of fiddles and the clinking of goblets, nobles gathered in smoky back rooms. There, prostitutes dressed as queens and queens dressed as whores. Dice rolled across the tables. A man's fortune could vanish in one night, along with his clothes. Naked gambling, naked punishment, and naked shame. Whoever lost became the entertainment of the room. Fortune wasn't the only thing stripped bare. The Turkish influence brought something darker still. With the Ottoman shadow over the principalities, harems became a fashion among the boyars. They imitated the sultans, collecting women in secret chambers. Some harems had 20 girls, some 50. Most were peasants taken against their will. Others were bought from slave markets along the Black Sea. Guards watched them, eunuchs enforced discipline, and the boyar himself played the sultan. Girls were dressed in silks, fed with sweetmeats and forced to dance. But the luxury was a cage. They were trapped in golden prisons waiting to be summoned. The Ottoman crescent cast a shadow of lust over Romanian moons. Let's not forget the punishments. In these lands, sexuality was not just pleasure, it was a weapon. If a wife was accused of adultery, she could be stripped, paraded through the streets, and whipped until her skin broke. In some towns, women were forced to ride donkeys backwards while crowds jeered. Men weren't spared either. A cheating husband might be tied naked to a stake smeared with honey, left for insects to feast on. And the voyevodes? They enjoyed watching. To them, justice was entertainment. Adultery wasn't forgiven, it was staged. The monasteries kept their filth too. Nuns were rumored to keep lovers in secret gardens, sneaking soldiers through the cloister walls at night. Some abbesses supposedly encouraged it, claiming a body used for pleasure cannot sin in prayer. Blasphemy wrapped in silk veils. Pilgrims who came to pray often left in silence after discovering that the holy sisters were less interested in salvation and more interested in flesh. And then came the witches. Every village had its healers, its wise women. But when accused of witchcraft, the trials themselves turned into sexual spectacles. Women were stripped to find the devil's mark. Priests prodded their bodies under the excuse of searching for demons. In some cases, women were forced to confess sins they never committed. Their words choked out while men surrounded them. Torture and lust went hand in hand, hidden under the name of religion. Witch hunts revealed more desire than demons. Now let's step into the royal courts once more. Michael the Brave, the hero who united the principalities, was said to have kept a secret room filled with concubines. Chronicles whisper that he invited foreign envoys there, not to discuss politics, but to display his collection. Women from Transylvania, from Poland, even from captured Tatar tribes paraded before guests. Diplomacy through debauchery. And centuries later, in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Phanariot rulers, Greek princes installed by the Ottomans, brought their own filth. They filled the courts with Greek courtesans, some barely older than children, painted with kohl and rouge, taught to serve wine and bodies alike. These women weren't just mistresses, they were bribes. A visiting official could be gifted a girl for the night, her body used as currency in the game of politics. In the Phanariot courts, lust signed more treaties than ink. The peasants copied what they saw above. During festivals, rituals of fertility turned into excuses for abuse. Men chased women through the fields, claiming it was tradition to ensure the harvest. Some festivals ended in group assaults, all while laughter and music tried to drown the screams. And when famine struck, desperation turned darker still. Families sometimes sold their daughters to nobles for bread. Flesh became cheaper than grain. And still, through it all, the church bells rang. Priests preached, icons stared, the people crossed themselves. Yet at night, the sins repeated. From the thrones of voivodes to the mud huts of peasants, lust ruled. In the Romanian Principalities, sin was not hidden, it was tradition. So when you hear of Vlad the Impaler, of noble boyars, of holy monasteries, remember this: the stakes in the ground weren't the only horrors of these lands. The true filth lay in the chambers, the feasts, the festivals. A history soaked not just in blood, but in lust. Because here in the Principalities, sin didn't knock at the door. It sat at the table, drank the wine, and never left.